Ever feel like your RPG characters are getting a little predictable? Like you're stuck in the same old warrior, rogue, mage routine?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. We've all been there. It's like you open up your character sheet and
It's like staring into the same tired tropes.
Yeah. And it's not just about, like, looks or backstories, but how they play out in the game, you know?
Totally. I had this experience the other night that really brought this home for me. We were playing a classic dungeon crawl. Dark, spooky, abandoned temple.
Ooh, I love a good dungeon crawl. What system were you
It
playing?
was Dungeons & Dragons, 5th edition. Anyway, my character was a barbarian.
Yeah.
Huge axe, bulging biceps, the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
But here's the twist. She was also a total bookworm, obsessed with ancient languages and lore.
Okay, I see where this is going. So while the rest of the party was hacking and slashing their way through puzzles, your barbarian was deciphering ancient texts and using her knowledge to outsmart the traps.
Exactly. It was so much fun playing against type. It made the game more engaging for me, and it definitely surprised the other players.
That's what I love about character creation. It's about more than just rolling dice and picking a class. It's about finding those creative sparks that make your character truly unique and memorable.
It's funny because when I was prepping for this episode, I came across this article on LitRPG Reads by Paul Bellow.
Oh, yeah?
And it was all about advanced character creation techniques. And it got me thinking maybe we could deep dive into this topic and explore some of the ways to build characters that break the mold.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic idea. I'm always excited to explore new ways to approach character creation.
So the article starts by talking about subverting classic character archetypes. Instead of the typical stoic, honorable paladin, what if you played a paladin who's riddled with self-doubt and struggles with their oath?
That's such a great way to add depth to your character. Instead of just playing the stereotype, you're exploring the contradictions and internal conflicts that make them more human and relatable.
And the article gives some great examples of how to do this, like a pacifist barbarian who refuses to fight but uses their strength and rage to protect others, or a noble rogue who steals from the rich to help the poor, a sort of Robin Hood type.
I love those ideas. It's all about challenging those preconceived notions we have about certain classes and finding new ways to interpret them. And think about the role-playing potential. How does a pacifist barbarian navigate a world that often glorifies violence? What moral dilemmas does a noble rogue face when trying to balance their ideals with their actions?
Exactly. It's like weaving a whole new layer of complexity and depth into your character's story.
And it's not just about subverting tropes for the sake of being different. It's about finding those unexpected combinations that make sense for your character's personality and backstory.
The article also made a really interesting point about the relationship between mechanics and narrative. It argued that stats and abilities should enhance the story, not overshadow it.
That's a crucial point that a lot of players, especially new ones, tend to miss. It's easy to get caught up in min-maxing and optimizing your character for combat, but the real magic happens when those mechanics serve a narrative purpose.
The article actually had this really cool table where they listed different character builds and then suggested potential role-play conflicts and resolutions based on those builds.
Oh, that's brilliant. Can you give us an example?
Sure. They had one for a power-hungry wizard who's terrified of losing control of their magic.
Oh, okay.
And the suggested resolution was for them to seek guidance from a wise mentor who could help them channel their power responsibly. It's like baking those character development opportunities right into their core concept.
I love that. It's not just about the stats, it's about the story those stats tell.
Yeah.
And it gives you a framework for role-playing those internal struggles and creating a truly compelling character arc.
It also takes the pressure off having to come up with those conflicts on the fly. You already have a starting point built into your character's design.
Exactly. And speaking of character design, we can't forget about the exciting world of feats and multiclassing. I feel like this is where things can really get creative.
Absolutely. Feats and multiclassing can open up so many possibilities, but I think it's important to approach them with the same mindset we've been talking about. It's not just about stacking bonuses or creating the most overpowered build. It's about finding combinations that tell a story about your character.
Right. It's about asking yourself, why would my character choose this particular path? What life experiences led them to multiclass? What inner turmoil drove them to develop these specific skills?
The article highlighted some combinations that really stood out to me, like a barbarian monk for this, like Zen warrior Vi, or a rogue cleric who's like a stealthy healer sneaking in and out of combat to mend their allies.
I love that. A rogue cleric who's driven by a deep-seated compassion, but also understands the need for subtlety and subterfuge. What a fascinating character concept.
And my personal favorite, a bard warlock, a charismatic spellslinger with a touch of darkness and mystery. What pact did they make? Why did they choose to delve into forbidden magic? So many questions.
Those are the questions that make character creation so captivating. It's not just about filling out a character sheet, it's about crafting a story, a life, an identity. And multiclassing, when done well, can add so much depth and intrigue to that story.
It's like each class represents a different chapter in your character's life. And multiclassing allows you to weave those chapters together into a more complex and compelling narrative.
Exactly. And it's not just about the past, it's about how those choices shape your character's future. What challenges will they face because of their multiclassing? How will they reconcile those conflicting aspects of their personality?
Those are questions that can really drive your character's development throughout the campaign.
Yeah, it's amazing how multiclassing can really shake things up, not just mechanically, but in terms of role-playing possibilities. It's like opening up a whole new dimension for your character. Absolutely. And, when we think about crafting compelling characters, we can't overlook the importance of their arc, how they grow and change throughout the campaign.
Yeah, you're right. A truly memorable character is one that evolves, faces challenges, and, makes choices that shape their destiny. It's like watching a character in a good novel or movie. Like you want to see them transform and become something more than they were at the beginning.
Exactly. And the beauty of tabletop role-playing games is that, you're not just passively watching that transformation, you're actively participating in it, making those choices that define your character's growth.
The article we've been discussing had a whole section on character arcs, and it even included a table with tons of ideas. Things like the reluctant hero, the betrayed knight, or even a haunted officer struggling with past trauma.
Those are all great starting points. Each one suggests a journey, an internal conflict that your character needs to grapple with. And each turning point in the campaign, each victory and each defeat becomes an opportunity for your character to, make a decision that reflects their growth or their downfall.
That's what keeps the game exciting, right? It's not just about following a predetermined path. It's about reacting to the challenges that arise and, letting your character evolve organically based on those experiences. And it makes the game more engaging for everyone at the table.
Absolutely. And it adds a sense of weight to the choices your character makes. It's not just about winning or losing a battle, it's about how those experiences shape their personality and influence their future actions.
Speaking of shaping their future, I think it's important to make sure our characters feel connected to the world they inhabit. They shouldn't just be like random adventurers who stumbled into the story. They should have roots, relationships, and reasons to care about what happens around them.
I couldn't agree more. When you take the time to weave your character's backstory into the fabric of the campaign setting, it elevates the entire experience. It's like they become an integral part of that world, and their actions have real consequences within it.
The article suggested several ways to achieve this, such as developing relationships with NPCs, joining factions, or even having family ties to important events. It's like giving your character a personal stake in the world's fate.
And think about how much richer your role-playing can become. Instead of just saying, I attack the goblin, you can say, I charge at the goblin, remembering how these creatures slaughtered my family. Suddenly the fight becomes personal, and your character's actions are infused with emotion.
That's such a powerful example. It's like their history is driving their actions in the present, making them more believable and relatable.
And it adds a layer of complexity to your character's motivations. Are they seeking revenge, justice, or simply trying to prevent the same tragedy from happening to others?
Those are questions that can lead to some really interesting role-playing moments and create compelling character arcs. It's like their past is constantly informing their present.
And don't forget the power of objects. A simple heirloom, a weapon passed down through generations, or even a letter from a loved one. All of these can connect your character to the world in a tangible way.
It's like those objects become more than just items. They become symbols of their history, their relationships, and their place in the world.
Exactly. They become touchstones that ground them in the setting and give their actions more weight and meaning.
We've been talking a lot about backstory and mechanics, but what about actually bringing those characters to life at the table? How do we make them more than just, stats on a sheet?
That's where role-playing techniques come in. And this is where things can get really fun and creative. It's about going beyond just dialogue and, finding ways to embody your character in a more immersive way.
Do you have any examples of what you mean?
Well, think about your character's voice and how they speak. Do they have an accent? Do they use certain phrases or slang? What about their body language? Do they stand tall and proud, or are they more hunched over and timid?
Yeah, you're right. Those details can really bring a character to life.
You can even incorporate those details into your actions during the game. Instead of just saying, I search for traps, you can describe how your rogue carefully examines the room, their fingers lightly tracing the edges of every surface, their eyes alert for any sign of danger.
I can practically see that rogue in action. It's like you're painting a picture with your words and actions.
And don't underestimate the power of, small, subtle gestures. A nervous twitch, a sigh of resignation, or even a knowing glance can speak volumes about your character's internal state.
Yeah, it's all about finding those little nuances that make them feel real, like they're breathing and thinking and reacting to the world around them.
Exactly. And when you start paying attention to those details, you'll find that your role-playing becomes more engaging, more immersive, and ultimately more rewarding.
We've talked about drawing inspiration from real-world cultures to create characters with rich and nuanced backgrounds. But I think it's important to approach this with sensitivity and respect.
Absolutely. Cultural diversity is a wonderful tool for enriching our games and creating more vibrant and realistic worlds. But we need to be mindful of how we use it. It's about appreciating and celebrating different cultures, not appropriating or misrepresenting them.
Yeah. Do you have any advice on how to strike that balance?
I think it starts with research and education. Take the time to learn about the cultures you're drawing inspiration from. Read books, watch documentaries, talk to people from those cultures, and always, always be respectful of their traditions and beliefs.
That's great advice. It's about approaching it with a spirit of curiosity and humility, recognizing that we have a responsibility to represent those cultures accurately and respectfully.
Exactly. And remember, it's not just about borrowing aesthetics or surface level elements. It's about understanding the values, beliefs, and social structures that shape those cultures and incorporating those into your character's personality and motivations.
It's about weaving those cultural elements into the very fabric of your character's being, making them an integral part of who they are.
And when we do that, we not only create more interesting and complex characters, but we also expand our own understanding of the world and its diverse cultures.
It's like using role-playing games as a tool for empathy and cross-cultural understanding.
Exactly. It's a powerful way to learn about different perspectives and challenge our own assumptions.
This has been such an enlightening conversation so far, and I feel like we've barely scratched the surface of advanced character creation techniques.
There's always more to explore, and sometimes it's the simplest things that can have the biggest impact.
Like what, for example?
Your character's gear. We often think of equipment as purely mechanical, right? Weapons for dealing damage, armor for protection, and so on. But what if we approached our gear with a more creative, narrative-driven mindset?
What do you mean?
Take a simple rope, for example. Sure, it can be used for climbing or tying things up, but it could also represent something more profound. Perhaps it's a symbol of trust between your character and their companions, a lifeline they can rely on in times of need.
Wow, I never thought about it like that. It's like transforming a mundane object into a powerful symbol.
Exactly. And it's not just about symbolism. It's about finding ways to integrate those objects into your role-playing in a meaningful way.
So instead of just saying, I use my rope to climb down the cliff, you could say something like, I offer the rope to my companion, hoping they'll trust me enough to follow.
Exactly. It adds a whole new layer of depth and meaning to the action. It's not just a physical act. It's an expression of trust, camaraderie, and shared purpose.
It's like those objects become extensions of their personality, reflecting their values, beliefs, and relationships.
And that can lead to some truly compelling role-playing moments.
The article provided several examples of how to do this, like using a lantern as a ward against darkness, not just for elimination, but as a symbol of hope and resilience.
Or a musical instrument that's more than just a source of entertainment. Perhaps it's a family heirloom that connects your bard to their ancestral heritage, or a conduit for channeling their magical abilities.
It's like turning everyday objects into artifacts imbued with meaning and history.
And don't be afraid to let your imagination run wild. What story can your character tell through the objects they carry? What secrets do they hold? What emotions do they evoke?
It's like giving each item a soul, a purpose beyond its mechanical function.
We often think of downtime as, just a period of rest and recuperation, but it can be so much more than that. It can be a goldmine for character development.
Yeah, I've definitely been guilty of just glossing over downtime in the past, but you're making me rethink its potential.
Think of it as an opportunity for your character to explore their passions, pursue their interests, and deepen their connections with the world around them.
So instead of just saying, I spend my downtime resting and healing, I could say, I spend my downtime practicing my swordsmanship, seeking out a master who can teach me new techniques.
Exactly. Or perhaps your character spends their downtime volunteering at a local orphanage, using their skills to help those in need. Or they delve into ancient libraries, researching forgotten lore that might aid them on their adventures.
It's like using downtime to flesh out their personality, develop new skills, and create a richer backstory.
And it doesn't have to be all serious and studious. Maybe your character spends their downtime indulging in their favorite hobbies, like painting, playing music, or even gambling.
It's like giving them a life outside of adventuring, making them feel more well-rounded and relatable.
Downtime is also a fantastic opportunity to strengthen the bonds between characters. Imagine a group of adventurers sharing stories around a campfire, reminiscing about past battles, or simply, enjoying each other's company.
It's like those quiet moments between adventures that solidify their friendships and create lasting memories.
Exactly. Downtime is where the real character development happens. It's where they grow, learn, and connect with each other on a deeper level.
It's about making those moments matter, turning them into opportunities for storytelling and character growth. We've talked a lot about playing against type and subverting classic archetypes, but what about taking that a step further, like really leaning into those unexpected character choices?
I think that's where the real fun begins, right? It's about breaking free from those preconceived notions of what a particular class, should be, and embracing the possibilities of what they could be.
The article encouraged us to try things like playing a cowardly paladin, someone who upholds their oath but is terrified of combat and constantly seeks nonviolent solutions.
Oh, I love that idea. It challenges the traditional image of the fearless, righteous paladin and creates opportunities for some really interesting role-playing. How does a cowardly paladin reconcile their fear with their duty? How do they find the courage to face their anxieties and protect those they've sworn to defend?
Yeah, it's like turning the classic hero archetype on its head, exploring the complexities and vulnerabilities that make them more human and relatable.
And think about the humor potential. A cowardly paladin, fumbling their way through a dangerous situation, could provide some much-needed comic relief, while still staying true to their character's core values.
The article also suggested a scholarly barbarian, someone who might be physically imposing, but prefers to solve problems with their intellect rather than brute force.
That's a fantastic concept. Imagine a barbarian who can decipher ancient texts, outwit their enemies with cunning strategies, and negotiate treaties with, their eloquence.
It's like they're a walking paradox, a powerhouse of muscle and might, who also happen to be a brilliant strategist and scholar.
And think about the dynamic that creates within the party. They might not be the one charging headfirst into battle, but they could be the one who outsmarts the enemy, devises the perfect plan, or discovers the crucial piece of information that saves the day.
It's about finding those unexpected strengths and abilities that challenge our assumptions about certain classes and make them more versatile and dynamic.
And don't forget about the importance of having contributions outside of combat. Not every character needs to be a damage-dealing machine or a spell-slinging powerhouse.
You're right. Sometimes the most valuable party members are the ones who can talk their way out of a sticky situation, heal their wounded comrades, or decipher ancient riddles.
The article had a whole list of non-combat contributions, things like a skilled negotiator who can broker peace treaties, a master of disguise who can infiltrate enemy strongholds, or a brilliant tactician who can, devise winning strategies.
Those are all fantastic examples. It's like everyone has their own specialty, their own unique way of contributing to the party's success.
And it creates opportunities for players to shine in different areas, whether it's through their charisma, intelligence, or wisdom.
It's about recognizing that every character has something valuable to offer.
Yeah.
Even if it's not directly related to combat.
Exactly. And when everyone feels like they're making a meaningful contribution, it strengthens the bonds within the party and creates a more collaborative and rewarding gaming experience.
Wow, I feel like I've learned so much today. It's amazing how much thought and creativity goes into building a truly memorable and effective character.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you. I always find it inspiring to delve into the intricacies of character creation and discover new ways to, push the boundaries of what's possible.
Huge shout out to LitRPG Reads and Paul Bello for the inspiration for this deep dive. Their article was a treasure trove of amazing ideas and really got us thinking about the endless possibilities of character creation.
If you're looking for more insights and inspiration, be sure to check out their work. It's a fantastic resource for anyone who wants to take their role-playing to the next level.
And we'd love to hear from you. What are some of your most unique and memorable character builds? What tips and tricks do you have for creating characters that are both effective and engaging? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below.
We're always excited to learn from our listeners and engage in discussions about the art of character creation.
Until next time, happy gaming!